This is the Bold City Podcast.
Well, hello. So today I am so excited to be here for our beloved women's podcast. This is super exciting. And my guest today, is that what I call you? My guest?
I love it. I'll take it. Special guest.
Yeah, I like it. The one and only. We have Miss Shannon Hill. So Shannon and I have been friends for 8 years now, going on 9. And she actually was our first full-time employee when we started Bold City, aside from Jason, obviously. And we've been friends ever since. And it's been really awesome just to walk through life with her and get to know her better. And so I'm excited to have her with us today. We are going to be talking about a very fun subject today. And I know she's so excited about it.
It's as fun as you make it.
This is true. This is true. We are going to be talking about your season of singleness. Now, Shan, can you speak a little bit to why we're having this conversation in regards to like the context of your life and where you are right now?
We are having this conversation because it is a season that is very familiar to me. So not that I'm an expert on it, but it's been a long season. I mean, it's been about 8 years. That's not in my mind or maybe society's mind, that's not a short time in which to be single, you know? That's pretty lengthy. So it's something that I walk through, and I hate using the word walk through because it sounds like it's negative, and it's not, you know? It has its moments, let's be real here. But yeah, just the fact that it is a familiar thing to me, and it kind of is in the back of your head a lot, you know?
Well, and I think obviously even scripture tells us there's a season for everything, right? And there are going to be some seasons that are longer, some that are shorter, some that are more enjoyable, some that are not so enjoyable. But I think something interesting with your season, and I'll let you speak more to it because obviously it's yours to share, but you were dating, but then you dedicated your life to Jesus and got really serious about your faith. And that's kind of where your singleness picked up again, correct? So what did that look like?
So it is interesting when you look at it that way, because I've been single before Jesus and I've been single after Jesus. And that is a very, very, very different. I still would have like stints of, I think I've had like maybe 2 real relationships, let's call them, to where you're titled. And in between that, it was like 5 years. You know what I mean? But I remember I was dating someone and we were living together. We were together almost 4 years, lived together for 2, and I started attending Bold City Church, started to follow Jesus, started to get to know him. And when I started to do that, he didn't necessarily want to follow that. It was not his cup of tea. Not that he was not a believer, a parent. And it's so funny because in that relationship, I never asked where he stood on God.
Really?
It was not a part of the conversation.
But it wasn't at the forefront of your life
either.
So
you went to church.
It's naturally not something you would talk about.
Not at all. You go to church twice a year. Christmas and Easter. Which is how I started Bold City. Best friend, Kristen, called me. I was like, hey, where are you going on Easter? Because that's a question. Where are we going to go? You know? And Bold City was brand new at the time.
So that would have been April. We launched in February. So we were, 2 months old at the time?
2014. And one service and never look back. That's all it took, you know?
One service.
So then when you're dating someone for so long and literally living with them, and God never came up in the conversation.
Isn't that crazy?
I literally just had an aha moment right now in this moment. You never talked about him, you know? It wasn't until I started, my faith walk that God started to talk about him and realized that he grew up Pentecostal. He was force-fed church. So he was that, his mother and father, who I love dearly still, I never knew they were in ministry. Had no idea.
Wow.
But he would he would be at church at 7 a.m., didn't leave till 7 p.m. So he had a very different outlook on it from being force-fed his whole life with it. And this is not negative on him in any way. He's a great man. But it's very interesting what that relationship consisted. Like God wasn't a part of it.
Yeah. Okay. So you continued dating after you started to pursue Jesus. So how did your relationship at that time shift? Like what changes did you start to notice where you really feel like Holy Spirit started speaking to you? And maybe you didn't even realize it was Holy Spirit at the time, but to where you realized like, okay, so there are some changes that are going to have to happen.
Yes. So, like I said, we were living together, and there were, just to be real, there were the desires I just didn't want to have anymore. You know what I mean? I wanted to take sex off the table. I'm being very real right now. Like I wanted to take that off the table, and I approached him with that. Looking back, our relationship was not great at the end. I was, like I said, I was a completely different person then than I am now. So I take responsibility for what my flaws were and what I did in that relationship that, weren't great. So whatever happened with us to where toward the end, it wasn't wonderful. Like this could have been his last straw. Like, no, you take that off the table. We're done. That hurt.
Yeah.
I was painted, I think, within his friend group of she just wants to get married, so she's withholding sex from you. Heard that probably within the year from people. And so there's a narrative that was painted about me, and that's okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can't, go running after people and like, that's not true.
Right.
You know what I mean? 8 years celibate, we can pretty much say that it wasn't a marriage thing. You know what I mean? But it's real. So know that when you take that off the table, you may lose your person.
Yeah.
But you have to be okay with that. And, but like I said, it wasn't amazing at the end. It still didn't make it hurt less. It still didn't, it was painful for sure.
But I feel like there's so much to unpack there, and we don't have to go into all of it, obviously, but sex is a huge part of a natural physical desire, one, but I feel like especially in today's society, it's so unheard of to not have premarital sex, right? But as a believer, when you are pursuing Jesus and you're serious about it, that's something that becomes a non-negotiable, or it should, right? And I think that in that moment and you taking a stand, that's kind of where God revealed to you, like, hey, maybe this isn't my best, right? Because not that there wasn't a commitment. You said you guys were together for 4 years, so there was a commitment there. But I think it's interesting how when your focus shifted and you focused more on Jesus and who he was and what he had for you, you noticed that maybe the relationship I'm in isn't actually as healthy as I had perceived it pre-Jesus, right? Because he changes our desires, but he also changes our standards. He raises our standards. Okay, so let's, just for the sake of time, let's just kind of jump forward to the breakup and how that rolled out for you so that you could enter into this season of singleness.
Well, let's see. Next step is he moved out.
Okay.
It was wow. It was like a 2-week period too. So he was living there. We were broken up and he was still living there because he had to find a place. Like, it ended quickly in the living room, separate couches. I remember the conversation, but thank goodness. And I'm going to, I'll try not to get emotional over this one, but thank goodness for you. Because I remember that text at the end of the night when I said, hey, I had that conversation with him. And you quickly answered that phone call so fast and just was there for me during that pain. I remember him being in the other room and I was on a text with you, So thank you. So you're welcome. Not to get too girly.
Please get girly.
But there really is something about, and that's another thing I learned, what community truly means and sisterhood truly means. And to have that person to call in moments like that are going to encourage you and remind you who you are and who you belong to, and that you can get through it. I can remember that just as clearly. I was sitting on my bed with the phone in hand. You don't think you're going to be at that moment. You never thought you're going to be there. You know?
Right.
So after that, it was really, it was, I think, October or November. This is when I came on staff. And I'm thankful for that. And I know this is going to sound so weird. It's kind of going on a rabbit trail. But spiritually, the church raised me. Do you know what I mean? To be able to go off and doing the things I'm doing now. But like I was surrounded by community all the time. I was immersed in the things of God all the time. Like my life completely changed for the absolute best, you know? I don't know. Like I look back at that breakup and if I didn't have that, how would it have gone? You know, what would like life look like now?
Right.
You know?
Where would you be now had you not made that decision to step away?
Yeah. Like it's crazy. Like I've gone through breakups before. Let me tell you one like how I went through this one.
Right.
You know, it was, let's go dancing, ladies.
Yeah.
You know, it was.
Which dancing is great.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not against dancing.
But it would have been like, let's go to Mavericks. Give me a
Yeah.
vodka soda, you know, but that's not what it was. You know what you had to do? You had to deal with it.
Right.
That's what it was.
Right.
You can't just run and, you know, fill that void with whatever. Like,
Right.
you know, you and Jesus, we were walking through this now.
Yeah.
Let's deal with the things that you've been carrying. And
Right.
like, and that's another thing. Like, I think I've had pain from like the very first relationship I was ever in, that 18-year-old, 19-year-old, you know, some people find it that young and it's amazing. And man, I wish I had that life sometimes to be able to say that happened, but that doesn't happen for everyone.
No.
You know, some people, that first relationship where you give your everything.
Yeah.
When I say everything, I mean everything to that person, and they tear you down constantly.
Yep.
And it's like, next relationship, you aren't going to do that.
Right.
No one's going to treat me like that again.
Right.
No one's going to, through whatever words they want to use, however they use it, you're not going to tear me down, you know?
Yeah.
And so you get in the next relationship and you've got that wall.
Yep.
And then it's sad because they don't really stand a chance.
Right.
You know? And
Right.
then however they deal with who you are now may hurt you another way. So you build another wall.
Yeah.
So the next one, not going to treat me the way those two did. So your walls keep building and building and building
Yeah.
until you're anything you can do, I can do better. And you're not going to hurt me. Like I was that girl.
The epitome of that independent woman
Yeah.
who doesn't need a man, who will never be dependent on a man, who will live completely and solely based on meeting their own needs.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's great if that's, and I think that there are some women who are truly just built that way, you know, like that's how they thrive and that's where they live their best life, so to speak. But I think that when you begin following Jesus, like he kind of deposits something else in you. You know, you do desire that relationship eventually, but I think that we have to first acknowledge we have to find contentment in Jesus and who he is and who he's called us to be. So as you were walking through that, what was it like for you? Because now you've made a complete 180 in your life versus pre-Jesus and post-Jesus. You've made a complete 180 in a relationship, not in a relationship, living with someone, living alone, and now being completely dependent on Jesus. And what did that look like as far as finding comfort in him and in him alone?
Oh gosh, that's a deep one. So what did it look like finding comfort in him? I think I struggle with it still a little, to be honest. That's probably why I can't, like, I'm sitting here trying to think of an answer. And I think the answer is it's because you still don't know if you're fully trusting him to find that pure comfort in him. I think it's the one part of my life I haven't surrendered.
Yeah.
And until I can have complete surrender in that, I don't know if I've got full contentment and comfort in him in that area, if that makes sense.
It totally does. So let me ask you this. Do you think, let me go to the scripture first. Okay. So Philippians 4:11 and 12. I don't say this out of need, for I have learned to be content in whatever circumstances I find myself. I know both how to make do with little and I know how to make do with a lot. In any and all circumstances, I have learned the secret of being content, whether well-fed or hungry, whether in abundance or in need. So what that scripture says to me is, or how I interpret it, let me say it that way. I think that we can still be content even while we're waiting on certain desires to be fulfilled. Does that make sense?
That does.
Like, I think your desire to have a husband and a family is completely natural and completely God-given, right? I think it's what do we do with that desire in the season where it's not yet met? you know? And I think it comes down to, and I want you to speak to this because and I remember my season of singleness. My nanny jokes with me sometimes because she's like, do you remember when you sat across from me and you said, I'm probably just never going to get married. It's just not going to happen for me.
Yep. I think I had that conversation last week. I'm fine with it. It's okay.
And in true nanny fashion, she said, you bite your tongue. Like, there is power of life and death in the tongue. And she's right.
Yeah.
But I really did feel like in that season of my life that maybe it wasn't in the cards for me. I too had gone through different relationships and ones that I thought, this is my forever. This is what it's going to look like. This is who it's going to be with. And God changed that. And so I remember having that conversation with her and really kind of feeling for sure like maybe it just wasn't in the cards for me, you know? And it was crazy because at that time when I said it, I was okay with it. You know, I mean, I said it in like a sassy way, like okay, Lord, fine, I got you. But I was good, you know? And I look back at that time, and that was when I was able to go sit in a coffee shop with my Bible and my journal for 2 hours uninterrupted, drink my coffee while it was hot, and not have anyone come into me because they needed something or wanted something. And that was a really special season. But I think I found my contentment in just pouring into him and being completely transparent with him because he can handle it. Kind of like what you were just saying in the sense of like, I think that is the one area I haven't submitted. You know, I haven't surrendered. Yeah. Recognizing those things and being bold with him, you know, because he wants to meet us there. We just have to be willing, you know. Yeah. So looking into where you are and in the term contentment, where do you feel like you find the most contentment in this current season? Like, when are you most content?
When am I most content? And I think it's funny because the word content to me feels calm. I'm not a calm person.
What? I am so calm.
But it has been amazing to be able to grow so close to him, especially these last few years. Because I feel like for so long, I would fill my life with work. It was, you know, especially growing up, being something professionally was a really big deal. Being good at what you did was huge. You know what I mean? So, and they always say, or not, I don't want to say always, but when your personal life isn't so great, it's okay because your career is really amazing. You know what I mean? Well, what happens when it's all just kind of like that, you know? And it's like, oh, come on, you know? But honestly, it's almost like he had to put me in that place to have not that I didn't have a real relationship with him before, but I feel like it was more intimate just these past few years. We've had moments, and it's so fun to say we've had moments. Like,
I was just thinking,
we've had
I love
moments.
that.
We've had moments.
Yeah.
Flat on the floor on your face moments. We've had front porch me and him moments. Like, I've had such an intimate moment with him where I remember, I think it was on Good Friday, and like, this is the kind of love that is like, oh, you feel it, you know? But like, I remember it was a pre-service prayer, you know, we'll have in the corner. And I fell to my knees, and it was almost like I felt not guilty, but like I was praying out loud to him, and I was basically saying, I'm sorry I wasn't there for you in your biggest time of pain. Like, I felt, you know, that's how close I am. I feel like I'm with him. That I feel bad that I couldn't be there while you were on the cross. I couldn't be there for you, you know? Like, that's the love when you feel like you are helpless for someone, you know? Fall in love with him like that. Yeah. Fall in love with him like that. And the way I hear him now is amazing, you know? And like, there have been moments where, and I've had, especially over this past year, it's funny, I think Gabby told me one day I was adventurous, and I've never thought I was adventurous. It's like, no, I'm not. And she's like, yeah, you are.
Yeah, you are. I think so. I think so.
I have more courage than I thought I had, because you can get in your head and tell yourself you're not, you know, brave because of X, Y, Z, not even looking at the things that actually do make you brave. Like, how many women do you know that are almost 40 that will get on a plane and fly to California by themselves, drive across Nevada by themselves, into Utah by themselves? That is adventurous.
That is adventurous.
I didn't like it, by the way. I won't do it again. But
you did it.
I did it, you know.
And now you know you don't like it.
And I know I don't like it. Yeah. And that's the thing. Go live your life abundantly. Do not waste the breath that he has given you. He died for it.
Use it.
That's like, so I had a moment with him that same way. I was like, don't let me waste what you did for me.
Yeah.
Don't. And if you want to keep me single for 5 more years because you're like, you're not using it.
Right.
Go use it.
Right.
Use it.
Right.
Live your life abundantly.
I think that's so powerful though, because even, I want to get into, okay, so what would you, based on your season of singleness, like what would you tell other women who are walking through that season? But I think that's it. Like live your life abundantly. Don't waste the breath that he's given you, because it's really easy for someone who is married to look at someone who is not and say, oh, don't waste this time. Use this time, invest in yourself. But there's truth in that. Like becoming the woman that God has created you to be, while he is preparing the man somewhere to be the husband that he's created him to be, if that's his will for you, right? Yeah. Because I think that there are women who are in that season that are looking so hard for that man to fulfill them and to complete them, and that's not biblical. Like, we're meant to find contentment in Jesus and in Jesus alone. And I recognize, especially with, working with like our young adult females so often, like it's so easy for them to look on social media and to watch TV and to have conversations with their friends. And it's constant, they're like just inundated with it of, you're not complete until X, Y, and Z. And that's such a lie from the enemy, and I love social media, but I do believe it's a blessing and a curse. I do believe that it has to be, you have to take it in moderation. Because everybody's going to post their highlights. Everybody's going to post the best pictures. They're not going to post those pictures when they're on their knees and they're crying out to the Lord, because they are struggling, they are hurting, they are desiring more. But we all have that, we all have those moments. So in that, what would you say to women who don't know what it looks like to live their life abundantly and to live fully and to pursue Jesus with everything they have, with every breath that's in them?
It won't happen overnight. And I will tell you, when you try to walk that out, the enemy's going to come right after you, because you are becoming who God created you to be. And the enemy is going to make you very fearful, and you're going to question, and you're going to, so be ready for that.
Yeah.
But like I said, that intimacy with him and listening to him and asking him, what do you want me to do with my day, my life, my next week? It's all about getting so close to him that you can hear him guide you for your life. And it is going to wreck you, because you may have a completely different plan. You may want to do something completely different. But if you follow him, he's not going to bore you.
Yeah, no, he's not.
I promise he's not boring,
No, he's not.
But don't be scared.
Yeah.
There are 365 verses in this Bible every day of the week and year that you can dwell on about not being afraid. Yeah. Look one up every single day. Start your day with it. Do not be afraid, because that was always my biggest struggle, was fear. It still is, you know. You wouldn't think it from the 14-hour trip in the mountains of Nevada. But it's funny, but the more you follow him and the more you're obedient with him, your confidence will build. And you're going to realize that you don't need the man you thought you desired here on earth before to give you. Because sometimes I even wonder, did I want my life to be complete with a man, or did I feel like that's the only way I could get my confidence? Was if someone loved me, then I was worthy of it. Then I was something. I was, whatever type of woman I had in my head that I wanted to be. Yeah. Well, if that kind of guy wants me, then all right, I'm good. Yeah. Okay, got it. No, honey, know who you are. So and when you are doing what God calls you to do, and I go back to Miss Donna, he's going to walk right into your life out of nowhere. And I pray for that sometimes. Don't let me see him coming.
Yeah, because I'll run away.
I'll run. Yeah. I'll run. Let me be so focused on you. Let me go buy a coffee business. Let me go do that. Yeah. Let me go love and talk to people every day and just do what I'm loving to do. Yeah. And let him walk right on in that way. Yeah. But that's how Miss Donna said it one time. He'll walk in. And it'll be, I remember we were at a baseball game or something, and I think someone was joking, because that's one thing about when you're single, you're kind of the token single girl. So there's always jokes like, oh, you can meet somebody today. And I think somebody had said something and I was like, not looking like this. I'm in running shorts, no makeup,
Right.
t-shirt.
Right.
And Miss Donna said, if it's the one God has for you, he will see you. And that's all it's going to take. Like, it doesn't matter what you're going to be wearing. It doesn't matter if you got lipstick and earrings on, it's like, and that's the other thing, like when you're single, like one question, I know this is a rabbit trail, but I've had people ask me, why are you single?
Okay.
Guys and ladies.
Don't do that.
That's the worst question, like.
You know what? So let's go there for a minute.
Okay.
Let's talk about some things that you should not say
Mm-hmm.
to single people. Single women in particular. Let's just go there.
Let's go there. And it's always out of love. And that's just know that it's out of love when people say these things. Well, sometimes. Depends on the...
We're going to err on the side of it being in love.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
See the best in others always. Yeah. Mhm.
But the big one is, why are you single? Oh, you're so cute. Why are you single? It's like, well, it must be a crap personality then. Like, I don't know.
That's when you want to say, I don't know.
But then, like, if depending on who you are, that can kind of get in your head.
Of course it
You
can.
know what I mean?
What's
Like,
wrong with me?
What is wrong with me?
Yeah.
Why am I single?
Yep.
Oh, and it's like, and I, even when I was younger, you have those family members or your friends, parents, and it's like, are you going to go out like that? Like, why don't you go put on some makeup? Go put on, those types of things. And already you're painting a picture of who you're not.
Can we just talk about that for a minute, though? Because when you meet that person and you marry that person and you wake up next to that person, you don't look the way you looked when you met. And I just want to put that out there because, there be all these catfishing stories out there. And I be seeing all these transformations on social media, and it's like that music at the front and then it's like, pow. And then they open and like, oh my gosh, who is this? The same person?
Yeah.
That's possible. I don't know who taught them to do makeup because I never learned to do it that way. But that is not reality.
No.
It's not reality. Yeah. And you have to be, again, I go back to content, but you also have to recognize, like, if I feel like I have to look or dress or act a certain way, then in front of this person for this person to show interest in me, then that's probably not the right person.
Exactly.
Like, I'm actually going to go out on a limb and say it's not the right person. Like, I know that Jason has seen me at my best, but he has seen me at my worst. And I don't doubt that he loves me in both, you know? But for someone to look at a single person and say, why are you single? That puts the responsibility on them.
Exactly.
As to if they have done something wrong, there is something wrong with them. They aren't doing things correctly. And that's just not reality. It's not fact. But you're right. It'll get in your head. It'll cause those walls.
Yeah. It blames you.
Yeah.
It blames you for your singleness. And that's not okay.
And why do we have to feel like there should be blame for singleness? Like I said earlier, I think there are some women who thrive in that, who would honestly probably not live their life to the fullest if they were in relation. Not everybody's cut out for it, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But even if you do desire that, but you're in that season of want and of desire, it doesn't make you any less than.
Yeah.
Ever. Okay, so note taken. Do not ask why you are single.
Yeah.
What are some other things that we should not ask a single person?
To not ask.
Or
you
say
don't
to.
have to try to fix me up with just any single person, I get that a lot. Like, you'd be so great with so-and-so. I've gotten to the point where I say, why?
There you go.
And literally they're like, what do you mean? I
Well,
was
because
like,
he's single.
Exactly. It's that's all. There's nothing else, and that's the thing. Like, it shouldn't matter. Like, take chances.
Yeah.
Go to dinner. And I'm really bad. Like, I know, because I know, right? When I said it, it's like, you just opened this, because I do need to be more open to just go have coffee. There's not a marriage proposal on the table.
Said it, not me. Just want to make note of that.
But that's the thing. Like, we think we have a type.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so true.
Just stop, because you just stop, Shan. Stop, lady.
Jason Allen Masters is not the type that I thought I would. I'm not even kidding.
I know.
Like,
I laugh because I know.
And that's what people tell you and friends tell you and movies tell you and all of these things. I'm so thankful social media was not a thing when I was in high school and college, because life choices. But I thought I knew my type. And who I married is not what I had in mind, but it's who God had chosen for me. And I could not imagine marrying who or what I thought
Yeah.
I was going to marry, because my life would just look so different,
Very different.
But it is so funny to me when, like, I talk about, like, the young adult females a lot because I'm around them often and close with them. But it's so interesting to me when they say, "Oh, he's just not really my type." I'm like, "Oh, that's so cute. Please say that. Please
Because-
speak that out, because you know what? Wait till you see who you end up with."
Because that type has done so well for you so far. Like I look back, I'm like, when I'm choosing and I think I have a type,
Messes up every single time.
Every single one. And I look back and I'm like, they had so many similarities. You know what I mean? Like, and so, yeah, that in itself will preach.
Yeah. Yes, it will.
Yeah,
Okay.
100%.
So you don't have to set them up with every
not with just any
just every
any
Joe
and everybody
that walks. Okay.
And I hope that didn't come out bad, but it's true.
No, well, I think you also have to use discernment and wisdom in, are these two people compatible based on what I know of them?
Right.
Like, I'm not going to set you up with someone who I know is a complete jerk every other day of the week but comes to church on Sunday.
Exactly.
Like, that's not what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
But if we recognize common ground and things that they have personality-wise that I think would mesh. And first and foremost, do they love Jesus? Like, every single time I talk to somebody, they're like, "Oh, we started dating." I'm like, "Does he love Jesus?"
Exactly.
Does he love Jesus? Yeah, he believes in God. It's not what I asked. Not what I asked. That's very different. All right. So any other things that you should probably just not say or ask?
Let's see. I think honestly, the biggest one is and it's just, they almost think it's a compliment with the "why are you single?" Because they never say it in a negative light.
Right.
It's almost like, "I can't believe you're
such a catch."
Yeah. So it's that kind of stuff. And then like the little things on, I love her dearly, but the put on some lipstick and wear some earrings. You'll better your chances. Okay. You know what I mean? Let me tell you, if I had earrings on right now, this wouldn't be working.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
But anyway, so those types of things, you know what I mean? And being single is not who I am. It's just,
That's so
it's
good.
my phase right now.
Right.
Or season, not
Right.
phase.
It's not your identity.
It's not my identity. You know what I mean? And it's not, I'll divert to it a lot in humor, you know, like it's kind of my go-to funny thing, a lot.
Yeah. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, now that I think about it. But yeah, it's not who I am. We can talk about other stuff. We can, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. What would you say because I know you and I have talked about this let me think how to word this. Okay, so I'm assuming that, well, I don't have to assume, I know you well enough to know, but I'm assuming for other single women out there, a lot of their friends are married. They do have kids. That is the life that they live. How would you encourage them to support you or to support their single friends?
Spend time with them.
Yeah.
It's, I've had, how do I word this? Because my friends that are married with children have very busy lives. So again, it's also important to know who you are and to have your own life. You know what I mean? But it can, there's, and social can hurt you when you see all your, married friends on this, couples date,
Yeah.
And then and you usually, you're always hanging out with them. You're the third wheel.
Right.
I've been the third wheel a lot. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Right.
But then you come into a phase where you're just not part of that anymore. I remember being younger where even my best friends now, we used to hang out with them as couples all the time. I was that little token third wheel. It didn't matter. Well, now it's not so fun to like bring that other person on, or I'm probably assuming it's not that, but
Right.
they're having date nights with
It doesn't
their
feel the
couple
same, though.
friends.
Right.
Yeah. Like, and it's like, well, it's not, it's a little hard. I don't know
Yeah.
how to explain that one, but spend time with them. You know what I mean? Spend time with them. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. And I think on the flip side, as someone who is so close to you, but married and with kids, like, I think there's also that feeling of, I don't want to highlight the fact that she's single or that she doesn't have that significant other when we all have our significant others in that moment. But it's also not like I'm enlightening you to something you don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're aware of it. But I think that knowing it's okay to be in those settings and to be in those environments and still know that, again, this isn't your identity, right? Like we're friends first. So let's remain friends. Let's do the things that friends do and just know that it looks a little different right now. Now, this is a question that you might have to think a minute on. But again, I want you to go back to being full transparent.
Okay. Oh, okay.
What is something or some things that you might say to single men out there right now? And let's first acknowledge that we are looking and considering men who love Jesus.
Okay.
Right?
That changed the game.
Yeah.
Because I was about to go somewhere. I'm like,
We're going to do
know if I
both.
should- oh.
We're going to do both and. Okay? Both and. Not and or. So what would you say to single men out there who do love Jesus, who do have a desire to be married and to have a family? What advice would you give them?
Honestly, it doesn't matter if you're man or woman. It's the same thing in my eyes. God, like a woman's not going to complete you just as a man's not going to complete me. You know what I mean? So I don't even know if I would look at it as man and woman. And you know what I mean? It's the same. We're the human race. Like it's the same thing. So I don't think I would honestly have a different thing to say. You know, it's the same thing.
Get to know Jesus.
Yeah, it's the same. It really is. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it speaks to the same. Maybe, you know, you could ask another woman, maybe she'd say something different, but it's the same to me.
I mean, I think that if I were in my single season and I saw a man pursuing Jesus, worshiping, if we're at the same church, worshiping on a Sunday morning, but not ending there and living his life in a way that worships Jesus and honors him and glorifies him, then that would be the most attractive thing to me. Yeah. You know, like types aside, like my type is a man that loves God and is going to love me as a daughter of the King. Okay, so what about on the flip side? To a man who maybe doesn't, not even maybe that he doesn't love Jesus, but that he doesn't know that that's who you are. Because I know we've had some experience with that too. I say we because I feel like, you know, I'm on this journey with you a little bit. But what would you say in that regard?
So men that maybe don't know Jesus. One thing that just keeps coming to my mind, and it could be just what I've walked through, don't use women. Don't use them. Don't use them to boost your ego emotionally. Don't use them for their bodies. Don't use women because it really does affect them in a way that you're never going to know because you just walk away. You know, you got what you needed, whether it was emotionally or physically or whatever. And I'm not trying to say this in a bad way. I'm not trying to put men down. I'm talking from experience.
Absolutely.
100%. Don't use them because that sticks with them. Yep. When you get to the point where you feel like you're just used for something, why want to be around a man at all then? Right. You know what I mean? Right. So I think that's like the biggest thing. And, you know, I pray for those that don't know God, that a woman that does will walk into your life and change your life completely. Yeah. I've prayed that before for people and it's happened and it's great. I mean, it's not like I had anything to do with it, but just, pray that. I pray that those men get to know who he is, you know, and I pray that someone walks into their life that completely alters them, you know, and turns them on a better path. Because when you use people, it is a lasting impact, you know, and it takes a long time to heal from that. It takes a long time to heal from that. Yeah.
Is there anything, as we kind of wrap up, is there anything that you, looking back now, would say to yourself when you started this season of singleness? Is there anything that you have learned or that someone, maybe wisdom that they've imparted into you? Like, is there anything you would say to your younger self or to the women out there who may be in that place of maybe entering into a new season of singleness? Because I know that transition of, you know, dating to a breakup to being single, like that's hard too, you know? And let me say this too. I do feel like you have handled your season of singleness. And I don't want to say the word handle because that feels like it's like a struggle. You know what I mean? But I feel like you have walked this season of singleness very gracefully. Like it doesn't mean that there aren't ups and downs. I mean, my Lord, there are ups and downs and issues when you get married. Like that's just life. Like we are never going to be fully content until we are with Jesus, right? Like in this world, we are always going to have some level of discontent. So what would you say to your younger self, which could also translate to other women?
Wow. Well, I know I would tell my younger self to know Jesus a lot sooner.
Yeah.
But then again, you wouldn't, you don't have your story to tell. You
Right.
know what I mean? So he came at the perfect time, I just keep hearing take chances. Just take chances. You'll never regret taking them. You'll regret not taking them.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds like a pillow embroidery or something.
Well, I mean, we could order some pillows, with that on there.
But it's crazy because like and it's funny because I have heard those things before.
Yeah.
And I would get agitated with them. I was like, until you walk in my shoes or until you know what it's like to go 39 years and blah, 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 those little cliche sayings used to bother me. But now like I actually feel them
Right.
and I'm like, no. I need you to hear me.
Yeah.
I need you to take chances.
Yeah.
I need you to go live your life abundantly, not his, not hers.
Yeah.
Live your life abundantly
so good.
through him. Let him talk to you. Listen to him.
Yeah.
Like literally have conversations with God.
Yeah.
Let him guide you. Ask him what it is you should be doing and follow it. Don't question it. Follow it. Oh,
See,
I'm
and
telling
I
you.
think that's one of the issues like we fall into, especially as women, because so many of us are so analytical and so like we need answers. You know, we fall into the what ifs. Like, well, what if I take that year-long missions trip and I go teach children in Guatemala? What if I miss the man I'm supposed to be with? What if I go to this college instead of this college and the man I'm supposed to meet is at God doesn't operate under our what ifs.
No.
Like he knows exactly what he's doing when he's doing it at the perfect time. And so I think that when we fall into the what ifs, that can just lead us down a very challenging, but also very destructive path, because you spend your life in those seasons of what ifs, and before you know it, your life is passing you by,
Yeah, you missed it.
and you've missed that opportunity. So I think that's a super powerful statement to just take chances, which I meant to do this at the beginning and I forgot.
It's okay. We can do it
But
now.
I wanted to ask you 2 things about yourself that maybe our audience, our listeners, isn't that what the professional podcasters say?
Maybe.
Can
I
you
don't
talk
listen
our
to enough
listeners?
podcasts. But,
Oh, okay. Well, the few I've heard, I think they use the word listeners.
Okay.
Can you talk to our listeners about 2 things about you that maybe they don't know? And it segues perfectly because you mentioned taking chances. And you recently did take a chance that people might not know about, which is super cool.
So if you do not know, I love coffee. And it's funny because our friendship started over coffee. I don't know if you remember, like I remember we were texting. It was about coffee. I don't remember what the conversation exactly was, but it was a coffee conversation. That's how our friendship started. So I love coffee for the taste of coffee, but I love coffee for the community of it, like all the things.
You also love the craft of coffee.
Yes, and I'm still learning that. Like, so I'm not some master roaster or anything like that. But yes, I absolutely love it, and it has become more of a love even over these past couple of years. Because God even put it in my heart like 7 years ago. There was a building in like the middle of Ocean Way, and I was like, oh, I want that to be a coffee shop. I want that to be a coffee shop, and the youth can come here, and they can use the Wi-Fi, and they can do things. And that, and then, life happens, you know what I mean? So that dream just kind of went away,
Push to the back burner.
Yeah. And then, fast forward like 4 years from then, I find myself, I'm out of full-time ministry and I'm like, okay, so what am I going to do? And that kind of comes back. It's the coffee shop thing. And I'm like, oh, and so I go back to that little house and roofers are renting it. And I'm like, can go find another building.
That's mine.
But then, God showed me a building right beside it. And I was like, oh, that's a nice building, and I looked at that one and I'm going on a rabbit trail, but I promise it's a good story. And it was, I love to research. There's another thing. I love to dig. Okay. So I'm on like cityofjacksonville.net, finding the address. Who owns this? How can I get in touch with you? He lives like on my road. I go knock on this man's door. Don't do that. But anyways, very long story short, all those doors just kept getting shut. It's still available, but everybody's trying to make a dollar, you know what I mean? So, and I wasn't in a place where I could obviously purchase a coffee shop. But shortly after that, I say shortly, loosely, I couldn't tell you. It could have been 4 months, could have been 8. I don't remember. But when I tell you to listen to God, really listen to him, but pray through what he's telling you as well. Like, really make sure that you're hearing from him, because when God tells you to sell your home, that's a life-altering thing. So when God told me to sell my house, and I got are you crazy?
Yeah.
Because it was, I didn't have a crazy expensive mortgage, and I do live, that it was in a good neighborhood, like things that people are seeking to live in this area and all that. And it's like, God told me to do it, like this is it. Now, it took a while before I actually did it.
Yeah.
Took a lot of time with him, prayer. And it was Pastor Adam. He did a sermon on doubting Thomas. And I
remember that.
That was the sermon where I was like,
Wow.
because it was, and I did tell him and his wife Jamie about it, the progression. But I went to a friend's funeral. I know it's the sad part. A friend's grandparents' funeral, and in the leaflet, there's how they'll put the scripture on the program, and it was Thomas, and I was like, huh, and that and then
Which is not like a common verse
it's
to
not
just
a common
randomly
verse.
see. Yeah.
Yeah. And then after the funeral, I'll get my car. I look at my phone, as you always do, and I had a voicemail from a guy wanting to buy my home. And his name was Thomas. And I'm like,
Stop it.
I'm not kidding you, and this is like in the time of like, I'm really like seeking, is this really what I'm hearing, And then that Sunday, Pastor Adam is up there, and he's like, yep, Pastor Jason, there's a couple of us, the next couple of weeks. And he gave a list of people he wants us to preach on.
I got Thomas.
And he literally, and he was like, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, if he says, I'm not kidding you. I was like, God, if he says Thomas, and he literally said, and I got Thomas. And I'm like, all right, God. And I remember leaving that sermon, and I wrote in my notes what I took away from it. Don't miss it. Like, don't miss this. Yeah. And, I need to frame that journal entry and all that. But, and so that week, I think I called the realtor. I said, hey, let's do this. And it was a really hard 2 to 3 months, by the way. So don't think it's going to be easy, when you take such a big chance. But, so while that was going on, I was talking to Pastor John and Shauna one day, and actually it was just Pastor Shauna, and it was when they were going to be moving, obviously, to Pace, and she just said one day, what would you do, like, if you just do it tomorrow? And this was in like the whole 2 months of selling the house. I was like, I just get a coffee thing and mobile coffee and just go places and sell coffee and drink coffee and all the coffee things, And she's like, that's awesome. What would you call it? In Shauna fashion. So like, what would you call it? Yeah. I was like, the coffee hitch. Came out of nowhere. It just flew out of my mouth,
You were like,
It has a nice ring to it, And then not long after that, she said, hey, I've got some friends that have that want to build a coffee cart. I'm going to put you in a group thread and you guys can dream together. I was like, awesome. And she did. She followed through. Yeah. And they had some life stuff happen. And they were like, hey, we really want to brainstorm with you. But we're about to move across the country. I was like, I'm not on a time schedule. Like, this was just a fun thing, you know? No worries. When you get settled in, give me a call, And I hadn't talked to him, like, a year goes by, however long. And not a year, probably however many months. And meanwhile, this is such an Exodus thing. Like, meanwhile, Moses is over here. Meanwhile, Shannon's at this volunteer coffee shop. Every opportunity God has put in my path pays nothing. It's all, hey, I want you to go do this, but it doesn't pay anything. And
good.
Yeah, meanwhile, like, the house is still not sold. I don't have income. I'm literally, my electricity was cut off. Like, it was a thing. Like,
it was a lot of fun.
Life was happening.
Yep.
And guess what? Like, you can let your mind go into it. I didn't have that second income that a husband could have given me. You know what I mean? Like, I was literally doing stuff just me and him. Like, I was on my own. And selling a house on your own.
We've sold quite a few, and I don't enjoy it.
No, it's not the funnest thing in the world.
Thankfully, Rhea is amazing.
Yes, she is.
Makes
yes,
it so much easier. But still,
she's a blessing.
Yes, she is.
And so I was volunteering at a coffee shop at the beach, and it was the craziest day in the world. I'll try to make this story short. We had 40 people in line. There was a huge 3-day event. Like, I think Hooba Stank was here, and
Hooba Stank.
Plain white tees were here, and they were headlining, but finally all these restrictions are lifted. And if you have ever grown up in the area, Jacksonville Beach gets very, very, very packed. And we are on the road with the pavilion.
Yeah.
So we're slammed.
Yeah.
I'm the only one on shift. It's my third or fourth shift. And I'm like, well, you called me to coffee. You showing up now. And there was about 40 people in line. The Wi-Fi went down. So the radio's off. I go into like Tom Cruise cocktail mode. I'm like, does anybody ever seen
slinging
cocktail?
coffee.
Yeah. And literally there's this guy just starts busting out laughing because, he's probably 40. He knows cocktail. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then the screen door breaks. The fire marshal decides to come in. Like, it's the worst, most hilarious. Holy Spirit took over and basically said, this is how you make coffee, Shan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But because of that, it literally made me think, man, I'd love to have that mobile
own
coffee.
thing.
Yeah, I would love to have that. Because in my mind, all the bands at the end in the pavilion who were coming into the coffee shop, I'm like, oh, we can do green room work. I can take the cart in there and just like serve them and the roadies and stagehands and all that kind of stuff. Like, mine was just a going. So I get on Facebook Marketplace and just type in mobile coffee cart. Boop. It was literally posted that day. That day it was posted top to bottom, whole thing. People had to walk away from the whole setup. And I'm like, whoa, you gotta be kidding me. South Carolina, of course.
Oh, right.
So I'm like, all right, well, it's just me. I can go to South Carolina. So reach out and I'm like, hey, is this still available? And they're like, absolutely. And I'm like, I'm in Florida. And they said, oh, we actually just left Florida. We just got home. Long story short, we were talking for a day or two and they were like, hey, you know what? We got a little, we just wanted to see who you were. So we went on Facebook and we have mutual friends and it's Pastor John and Shauna. By the way, we're the people that you were on a group thread with
My goodness.
however long ago. And I'm like,
Stop it.
We're both in shock and awe because like, I didn't save their names. And like,
Right.
we literally were on a group thread, like however long ago.
Yeah.
So like, I'm sitting here and like, I hear you loud and clear.
Right.
There's no way I'm not going to South Carolina and looking at this thing. So I got there and I got it. And so I came home and, a lot of things have to happen when you open your own business, by the way. So be prepared for that. But long story short, had I not listened to God, had I not sold my house, had I not done this and that, I wouldn't have my own business that just launched this week for the very first time. We did an event. You know what I mean?
I got to taste test.
Yes,
and it was
you did.
fantabulous.
Yes, you did. So
The orange Carter's mom is great.
yes. But when I get excited, I get heavy handed with
It's
the
fine.
syrup, but it's okay.
fine.
I got pumps coming, so it's okay. But yeah, so that whole journey, I am so thankful that it was just me and God.
Yeah.
And I'm sure like if he wanted someone to walk into my life during that time period, it would have only helped me, you know what I mean, if that was his plan, but it wasn't.
But it
It was
wasn't.
a time for me and him. It was a time for me to build my confidence. It was a time for him to look at me and say, you can do this.
Right.
Don't miss it. Like
Right.
you can do it. Don't be scared.
And you did it.
And I did it.
Yeah.
And I may be feeling that right now. Maybe having like a aha moment of, yeah, you did.
You did
Yeah,
it.
you did. So yeah. So yeah. Yeah.
That's
All the
awesome.
feels right now. So
That is so
yeah.
cool. I love that. So, moral of the story there is you love coffee.
I do.
You now have your own coffee business.
I do.
You research. You like to research.
do.
That is something
I
else
do.
that people don't know about you. But it was because of that research that led you to essentially where you are now.
I am now.
And you are walking out a dream fulfilled, and you're doing it in a season of singleness.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting,
That is
really.
pretty
It's really
exciting.
exciting when you break it down like that. Yeah. it
And
is.
I think that just goes to show that God's going to do what God's going to do, and it is not dependent on a marriage or a husband or a family. Like, it's solely dependent on your obedience to Him,
yeah.
knowing His voice, and spending time with Him, making the most of that season, being adventurous,
Yeah.
so you don't miss it.
And there's more to come. Like there's still more adventure to be
This-
had.
yeah, it's
so
not-
it doesn't
it's not
stop
a
here.
period.
It's not a period. There's another cliche, but it's so true.
It's not- yeah,
it's
it
not.
is.
It literally, it's a comment. Like I'm now going into the second half of my life. Very excited.
Yeah.
So the second half of life I'm excited for it. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I'm here for it for sure.
I love it. Well, Shan, I love you.
I love you.
And I'm so glad you said yes to
Yeah.
doing this podcast with me. I'm so glad that we had an opportunity to talk. I know that you will not be a stranger here. So I love you and thank you. And thank y'all for tuning in. And we are excited to continue this
Yeah.
with more podcasts to come.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for tuning in to the Bold City Podcast. To learn more about us, visit us at boldcity.church or download the Bold City Church app. To support this ministry and help us continue to reach people all around the world, visit boldcity.church/give.